Hello and welcome back to Low Man Wins podcast. First time I've showed up for a long time. I'm your host today, Andy Laidlaw, with my boys Alex Cramer and Andrew Miller. We're breaking down the AFC East today, the draft grades, see what is going around in the always been dominant division by the New England Patriots, AFC East. But we're going to start it somewhere else. You know, the Miami Dolphins, team that had the most draft capital all year, came to the draft, number 4 pick. Everybody kind of knew where they're going. You know, what'd you think of the entire draft from the Miami Dolphins?
From Miami Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins, I think they started pretty strong. You know, listen, I very much was not a Tua fan, but I think for what the Miami Dolphins have been looking, I can't blame them for getting their guy. So there's always that. They got their high upside tackle later, which is always important to protect your quarterback who has huge injury concerns. I mean, if there's a guy who might have one of the highest ceilings, it's Austin Jackson. Noah Igben Haney? I'm not really good with these.
I just wanted to hear him try. Igbenogany.
You know, he's a slot corner. I think the secondary is not something the Dolphins really needed to pay attention to. They have Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. They have 2 really shut down corners. That was not an area I think they needed. But throughout the rest of the draft, I really liked what they got. Raekwon Davis is a perfect, New England Patriots era kind of guy. Just a huge run stuffer, which they need up in the middle. Robert Hunt, I love getting those big guys at your guard, so those are always my favorite kind of guys to get. And Robert Hunt is just pure size, pure power. I love that pick. But a lot of the rest of the draft, you know, they teeter between getting really good value and just reaching on positions I didn't think they needed. Like Brandon Jones, I didn't think was really a good value in the 3rd. Solomon Kinley, I thought was a good pick, but not in the 4th. I like Jason Strawbridge a lot, but he wasn't the guy I thought really fit Miami system. Curtis Weaver was a pure, why is a 2nd rounder falling to the 5th round? We'll take him. And then you got a backup running back. I thought the Miami Dolphins had a good draft, but I think that and got some like very good foundational pieces. But what I think was missing was a lot of value and maybe some more. They had more needs to address when they're trying to rebuild the team. So I give them a B because I think they got what they accomplished what they really needed to accomplish, but I think they could have gone somewhere else.
Yeah, I completely disagree with him. I gave this draft an A. This is, in my opinion, this is an A- draft, but because they played the entire league into getting exactly who they wanted at 5 without having to trade up, I'm going to give them an A. Because, I mean, everybody, Andy, you said everybody knew who they were taking, but I mean, the entire week up, are they going to take Jedrick Wills? They're going to take Andrew Thomas. There's all these rumors out there, and Tua fell right into their lap. There's obviously Tua concerns, but he's the number 2 quarterback in this class, so I love the pick. And then Austin Jackson, in my opinion, was the best of the tier 2 tackles. And his main concern is strength, which he lost, because he donated bone marrow to save his sister's life. So I'm going to bet on that guy. I think that's fair. I love the Robert Hunt pick. He was my favorite day 2 guard. He's a mauler, very much Will Hernandez from last year type. Curtis Weaver, Brandon Jones from Texas. I think they represent great value. Raekwon Davis can be a stalwart in that defense. I think even Malcolm Perry represents some value, and you got hopefully your starting long snapper of the future, best one in the country. We evaluate them here too. Overall, I mean, I thought this class was really deep, and I thought they did a great job of addressing value at almost every round. So A from me, great job of playing the league. Dolphins finally added some talent here and are trending upward in a very open division.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kramer. I think that they really need to address the wide receiver position in this draft, which was something I was surprised I didn't go with. For getting a new quarterback in there, I thought similar to what the Bengals did with Joe Burrow, they got him his receiver right away to develop with. I think they really need to do that, and I think they missed opportunities in this draft to do it because I think they went somewhere like the Noah Igbenogany pick. To me, is where the draft probably went from like an A-, B+ range to a B. So I didn't think they needed to address that pick. And it's strange to do it off one pick to fault them like that, but that's their last huge value pick for trading all those players. They needed to like get foundation pieces. I think Noah Igbenogany is the kind of player that's pure luxury, and they're not kind of looking for luxury. They're looking to build a foundation at this moment. And I like Noah Igbenogany. Like, I don't mean to like say it like that.
So I have 2 questions, and either one of you guys can answer this. Were you guys surprised that they didn't even try to trade up to, or I'm sure they tried, but were you surprised that they did not trade up to 3 with the Lions or even kind of 2 with the Redskins? And the second question is, with that 30th overall pick, were you surprised they didn't take DeAndre Swift?
I'm not particularly sorry, I feel my let's go. I'm not particularly surprised it takes DeAndre Swift. It's always not great value to get a running back unless he's like an elite player in the first round, especially when you're a rebuilding team and you're trying to get an identity. When a running back is kind of a 4-year investment, you kind of want the running back to be the last piece you get over the hump if you're building a team. And then picking to the third, trading for the third. I mean, everyone kind of knew that the Lions had no reason to trade down because no one was trading up. And the only reason you would trade up is to stop another team from doing it. And if the board and what the Dolphins like Cramer said, very successfully did was trick the rest of the league into thinking they're fine not taking a quarterback this year, or maybe they'll take Herbert. And the Lions are just kind of put in a bad position. And Dolphins played it perfectly.
Yeah, I'm starting with Igbenogany. I'm not at all surprised they took him. He's the type of corner that teams just tend to fall in love with. I mean, he's insanely fast. He's a track athlete. He's the son of an Olympic sprinter. So, I mean, yeah, there's a ton of athleticism there. And I personally don't think he's destined just for the slot. I think he can be an outside corner. So I can understand the desire to get in a guy who can be a top tier corner. I thought they would trade up. I guess I was deceived, like everyone else at 5. I thought that the Chargers really wanted a quarterback and weren't content just sitting with Herbert, but they were able to trick everyone, and I think they had a better idea of what the rest of the league was doing than the rest of the league. So, good job, Chris Greer.
Did you guys honestly believe that the Dolphins were going to take a tackle at 5? I'll start with you, Kramer. Did you think the Dolphins are going to take a tackle at 5?
I thought they weren't going to take Tua. I really thought this was Drew Brees'
part
too. I thought it was going to be Herbert or a tackle. And I wouldn't have hated the tackle pick. I would have hated the Herbert pick. But, this is what happened with Drew Brees. They passed on the quarterback because of medical reasons. So, I thought it could happen again. I'm glad it didn't because I think Tua is going to be the same type of quarterback as Drew Brees.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. I'm not really surprised either. I really thought that they were taking Herbert. Like, I was convinced, and that's why they weren't trading up because no one was trading up for Herbert if he was the only market in town. But you got to give it to them. Like, I think Brian Flores got the guy that will fit his culture more than, like, maybe not his system. I think Herbert and Tua are both good prospects and will fit anywhere. But I think what Tua brings is a leadership that I think Brian Flores is looking for, and that's what'll transcend. I'm not sure I would give him a Drew Brees level comp, but I think Tua has landed in the perfect situation for him. I thought they might go tackle and go for a quarterback next year, since next year has 5 prospects I could see going in the first round.
Right.
This Tua hate from Miller is something I did not expect.
It's not.
He's an elite prospect without injury concerns.
I just don't see it. Like, I think that we thoroughly overvalue the success he had at Alabama because a lot of his receivers were really open because they were faster and better than everyone else.
Herbert or Tua?
Herbert.
Wow. I would take so many players over Herbert. I'd probably take Cole McDonald over Herbert.
Listen, it's a style. Andy.
But isn't it kind of hard not to overvalue what Tua did at Alabama when the first time we ever saw him, he came in off the bench on the second half and led Alabama on a comeback national championship. And when you see a performance like that, he comes out of nowhere. It's kind of hard not to fall in love with the dude, fall in love with what he did.
No, I totally see, the traits are there with Tua. My things with Tua, one, were his style of play. He plays in a style that will get him hurt in the NFL. He doesn't do a lot when the play is broken, which is what I look for, number one, in an NFL quarterback. What do you do when the play is broken and you have to fix it? Tua was able to, whenever something was there for Tua to get, he got it because it was given to him. And that's great. Tua was probably the best deep ball thrower I've seen in a long time. He can throw a deep ball better than half the quarterbacks in the NFL today. I'm not in college. And he has a strong arm. What I was worried about were two things. If the play breaks down, is he good at improvising and throwing on the run to a point where when it's not a design throw on the run. And two, he has a strong arm, but he doesn't have a rifle. The ball doesn't pop in there. So, like, when there's, like, a small window, it doesn't always – the window closes before it gets there. That's what I saw with Herbert, which was his, like, superpower. But I have been wrong with this before. I think I said this with Deshaun Watson. He didn't show his fastball in college, but he didn't have to. And then when he got to the NFL, he had his fastball was there every play because it had to be. So I could be wrong, but I put Herbert over him. And it wasn't anything about Tua. I think people were disrespecting Herbert more than they were and praising Tua for things that may not have been in his control. But this is not like a Tua show.
All right, Kramer, got anything to add?
Great draft for the Dolphins. Don't listen to Miller.
All right, so moving on. Second team that I kind of want to talk about was, right in the 11th spot in that first round was kind of a question whether they'd go with the tackle or whether they're going to take one of the big wide receiver names. The New York Jets, they came out the 11th pick, took Makai Beckton. I know a guy that some people love, some people do not love, a guy with a lot of talent, but has a lot of quirks that need to be fixed. What'd you guys see, and I'll start with Kramer, what'd you guys see with the overall draft of the New York Jets?
I mean, I really didn't like it very much. I thought Beckton was one of the more overrated players in this draft, and Tristan Wirfs was there, who at the worst is going to be a top 5 guard in the NFL. So I think they made a giant mistake there. And if you didn't want to go offensive line, which I thought that they should, then you could have gotten one of the best wide receiver prospects in years, and you could have taken any of those top 3 guys. I really did like the Denzel Mims pick, especially because he's going to get every opportunity to start in that offense. I mean, he's going to be wide receiver 1 from the get-go. Davis, Zuniga, Bryce Hall, they all have starter potentials. They have good traits. But other than Hall, there wasn't great value where they picked them, and they were all a little bit overdrafted. And Hall's got giant injury concerns as well. And then they took James Morgan in the 4th, which I thought was just crazy. There's so many holes on this Jets team, and they drafted a backup quarterback in the 4th. And now they just signed Joe Flacco. So they drafted a 3rd-string quarterback in the 4th round. I didn't think P. Ryan was the best back on the board when they took him. Overall, like, there's some good players in here. Like Ashton Davis could be good. I think Zuniga has a ton of pass rush potential. He's an edge rusher from Florida, but I mean, he didn't put it together in Gainesville. So I mean, there's some good picks here. It's a C+ for me. I think that they completely whiffed on the first round, and the Mims was their Mims pick was their best pick, but they just overdrafted a lot of positions, and then they just didn't let the draft. I was really surprised because I love Joe Douglas. I thought he was a great hire, but I think he just really missed on this draft.
Yeah, once again, me and Kramer kind of have a fundamental 180 difference on the entire class as a whole. I'm gonna start with my grade. I gave it a not so great A-, like a 90%, 89% A-. Like, I'll start with the first pick. Everyone knows I was a major fan of Makai Beckton, but this is also the kind of tackle I tend to really love. I love the bigger than everyone, faster than everyone. This guy is when you're on the defensive line, it's like this guy is gonna. I have to get past this guy. Holy hell! But like,
the problem is he just misses half the time. But
he doesn't
half the time he gets his hands on you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, if he ever touches you, you're done. And it's every time I watch tape, like, this guy is special. It's like he's the kind of guy that before the play starts, and you're watching like the sky view, like traditional tape, he's the guy who sticks out. He's like, who's this guy? He's massive. So I loved him. He was my number 1 tackle. And at the end of the day, I'm not gonna fault even if he was my 4th tackle, I wouldn't fault the Jets too much for picking him because they need offensive line help. The Denzel Mims was not my favorite receiver in this class. I thought he was a little too traitsy, and I don't think his production really matched up with like his Senior Bowl or his combine. I think that like he didn't play as fast as he showed late, which was something I looked for. But he has, if it is true, he has the potential to be a real number 1 receiver. He reminds me a lot of a Kenny Galladay in that mold. I loved Ashton Davis. One of my favorite players in this class, personal friend of another WCBN member from back home. So that's very fun. But I thought he reminds me of like he'll play a Tyrann Mathieu type role. He can play corner, he can play safety. He'll occupy that like all those roles. He'll be a pure coverage guy. I love him. I love that pick. But Jabari Zuniga, he's the guy that I think has talent. He's not the kind of guy I would invest at the Jets, specifically the Jets, because his best friend in college was a famous draft bust for the Jets, Jabari Zuniga. Ja'Kai Polite was Jabari Zuniga's best friend in college, and he infamously flamed out of the NFL because he had no work ethic. So that worries me about Jabari Zuniga. And in the fourth row was Kramer also was another man crush of mine was Michael Pirine. I thought this guy was like an underrated, no one's talking about this guy running back. But my problem is he occupies the same role that Le'Veon Bell does. I thought that was particularly interesting. And in the fourth round, I don't want to get repeat roles when you're rebuilding a team. And then James Morgan, listen, I wouldn't say he's a backup quarterback. He's a developmental quarterback. You're trying to get a guy who's traitsy and see what you can get, and maybe you can capitalize on the investment later. I don't necessarily hate the pick. I don't get it as much, but I don't hate the pick. I actually liked him. I think he's like pure developmental. Bryce Hall in the fifth round, when he's falling that hard, you can't pass him up. And then getting Cameron Clark, who's a good tackle, you got two good offensive line pieces. Maybe one's a backup or a swing tackle. You need kind of those players. And then sixth round, you got the best punter in the draft. Like, I don't really have any real problems. I think they could have gone other places. I think they needed to invest more in the interior offensive line than they did, and more at the edge rusher position than maybe just Jabari Zuniga. I think they got a little cute in the draft sometimes. I gave this draft an A- because I like a lot of the players they took. I just think that there were better options on the board almost every single time, except Makai Beckton.
So that's my major question for the Jets draft. I mean, Makai Beckton is a guy who, I believe he ran a really, really good 40 time, but I've heard a lot of his flaws are his lateral quickness. And you have to go up with these edge rushers, like you can take on Von Miller or TJ Watt. You have to go against, any one of the amazing defensive ends out there. I just can't imagine a guy who has trouble moving laterally is going to be able to be as sustainable as a guy like Tristan Wirfs, who everybody thought had a realistic chance of going to number 4 to the Giants, who ends up falling all the way down to the Tampa Bay Bucks. You have a lot of stock in a guy who you're taking 11 overall, but you're taking on a guy who has a lot of flaws. What do you guys think of Makai Beckton argument versus Tristan Wirfs?
I mean, I think this offensive line is so bad that you can't take a guy who's like 50-50. I mean, Beckton could be Miller's right. He could be the best tackle in this class, and he could be a top 5 tackle in football. He has that potential. He also could flame out of the year in 3 years, and I don't think that's crazy either. So,
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he has Ronnie Stanley level upside. He's big. He for a league that people talk about how this league is a passing league now. There's a new emphasis on the power run game that is coming into the league right now with the Kyle Shanahans of the world. And I think Adam Gase really wants to establish this run class. And he's not facing the Makai Becktons of the world, of the TJ Watts. He's on the left side. He's a pure left tackle. He doesn't play right tackle. I think that at the very worst, he's a Eugene Monroe at worst. He's just a good tackle. But I think really when you're getting Makai Beckton up there, you're getting one of the premier talents at this position to come into the draft in a long time. And I know people are worried about his bust potential. And I see it, but a lot of people think that, and I think most of his technique is refinable. I think most of his technique is pure. He ran in a system that I don't think fit him. I think he'll be better in a base set offense like Adam Gase runs. He's basically he'll be the Ryan Clady in that Adam Gase offense that Peyton Manning used to run back in the day. I think he'll be a special tackle in the league, and I think he'll be a Pro Bowler, an all-pro by the time his second year comes. I really do.
If you ask many offensive lineman coaches at any level, it could be high school, college, pro, anybody who knows offensive line and the traits needed to be a dominant offensive lineman, a lot of them will tell you it's footwork and lateral quickness. Being a left tackle in the NFL and being in the 11th overall pick, I have concerns of whether he can come off the edge against Nick Bosa. How's he going to handle the speed of Nick Bosa? Guys like that. Like I said, I brought up Von Miller earlier. Guys coming off the edge with crazy, crazy speed. If he's whiffing and missing a lot of guys, that's a concern that I thought that a lot of teams looking for tackles would look at. But to see him get drafted over Tristan Wirfs, for me, was kind of crazy.
I don't think it was that great.
I completely agree. I thought it was one of the worst picks in the first round.
We just fundamentally disagree. I think the lateral quickness argument is a little overblown because people were talking about him in the as the number one tackle, so they had to find a reason that he wasn't as good as Tristan Wirfs, or he wasn't as good as Jedrick Wills.
I think you're missing the point that his lateral quickness is a flaw. Like it's an actual flaw. I don't think it's made up.
It's not a plus.
He misses play. Like he misses edge rushers. Like he just misses. He whiffs. Like it's a quickness issue.
We'll see in the NFL. I think this is one of the guys I'll be proven right. There's a lot of guys I've been proven different. I think I'll be proven
believes in his conviction.
And it's Miller. I do your argument too. You think about it any sport. You're thinking of I'm obsessed with football and college football and college basketball recruiting. And you look at college basketball recruiting, Michigan just missed on a guy in Isaiah Todd, who is a top 15 recruit. Everybody said that right now he's not a fantastic basketball player, but it's the upside that people go nuts about. And that seems like it's the same way with Makai Beckton. Like right now there's a lot of flaws that might potentially come out to see him as a bad NFL tackle, but it's the upside that makes people go crazy. That kind of how you guys see it.
I just don't.
100%
bad. I see where he's not special. He doesn't figure it out. But I think at the very least he's a power tackle where he's just this big guy, but you might have to put the fullback on the other side to help him out a little bit. At the worst case scenario.
I'm up with a tight end. Yeah, you can do that as well.
But I think at the very least he's a big obstacle in the defense's way.
I think he's a backup tackle. If it busts. Miller, I'm saying if he busts.
If he busts.
If he busts, he's a backup tackle. I don't think he's a serviceable tackle if he busts. If he can't block people, if he sucks at pass pro, he's not going to be a left tackle in the NFL for very long, and he's not going to be a starting left tackle in the NFL for very long.
I remember, but this is another guy. Before, my last words on Makai Beckton was this is kind of a similar evaluation people had to Taylor Lewan, and then he became one of the best left tackles in football.
I think they're different players, but we could agree to disagree.
All right, fair enough. So let's move on to another team in the AFC East, a team that a lot of people think is on the upside this year, a team that people think is going to take over this division. We're going to go on to the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. But how do you guys think that their draft panned out? I'll start with the last time ago, Miller first year.
All right. So I thought this draft was near perfect. There may have been some other positions I think they could have gotten at, but every pick was a value pick at a position of need. This is my thing with a lot of these teams. If you are contending for a Super Bowl now or the next year, you need to pick players that are going to impact your defense and impact your team in general. So we're going to start with one of my guys who I thought was and Cramer was not a fan. AJ Epinesa was their second-round pick. I thought he was a top 15 player. I think he fell because his 40 time was not great. And people think edge rusher should be fast. I don't think he's much of an edge rusher as an edge setter. He reminds me a lot of Cam Jordan in that way. He's not going to particularly blow past the tackle. He's going to destroy the offensive line and blow up the play, and then he'll push his way to a sack. I think that's what AJ Epinesa's role is, and that's what Buffalo really needs. They have Jerry Hughes on the other side to be their go-get-it pass rusher. AJ Epinesa on the other side blows up a play. That's where so I gave that pick a grade plus. Zach Moss in the third round was a perfect compliment to Devin Singletary. I think they could have gotten a running back later similar to Moss, but I think he could occupy that Marshawn Lynch kind of role. He just bounces off players. He's a pretty good pass catcher. I think he's perfect for Buffalo, which is going to probably become a very run-heavy team this year with the way Josh Allen plays. Great pick. Gabriel Davis is not my favorite receiver in the fourth round, but in the fourth round, when there's a bunch of receivers left, I tend to give the leeway to the team, especially in this draft. Get the guy you like that you think will fit your offense. He's a tall guy. They've been missing. They got a lot of good receivers this offseason, but they really missed that that tall guy who can jump in the red zone. That's what Gabriel Davis is. I think that's what he'll succeed at. And the same thing with that's the same thing with Isaiah Hodgins in the sixth. If one of them hits, you had a good draft. And then, excuse me, in the fifth pick. The fifth round was where all the controversy happened in the draft. Everyone's like, oh, no, Jake Fromm, is he going to replace Josh Allen, blah, blah, blah. Or he's so incomparable to Josh Allen. And I don't see it that way. I don't see Fromm having the necessary faith to be a real factor at starting quarterback. But I think that what he offers to a team that's contending right now is a quarterback who will go into a team and go into a game, not mess it up at all, and has played in big-time moments where he's not phased. I think this is a perfect backup situation for Jake Fromm, and I couldn't be happier. And Tyler Bass was number one kicker in the class, so you can't fault that. And then Dane Jackson, a possible slot cornerback in the 7th. I gave this a pick an A, this draft an A. I universally loved every single pick. I think they could have targeted corner earlier, and they could have gone maybe better with the interior offensive line, which was a huge need for them. But overall, I loved every pick they made, so I gave it an A. It would have been an A+ if they had addressed offensive guard earlier anywhere in this class.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think the Bills are close to a Super Bowl contender. Just a blanket statement there. And
contender for at least contender for the division at least. Yeah,
I didn't love this class. Epinesa I thought was very good value. I thought that was right where he should have been taken at 45. I think that he's a tweener, and the more I watched him, the less convinced I'm going to be he's going to hit in the NFL. Miller just compared him to Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan had 15 and a half sacks last year. I don't think AJ Epinesa will ever have more than 10. And if he's getting close to 10, that's a great player. But he's not an edge rusher. He's never going to be an edge rusher. He just doesn't have the athleticism to be an edge rusher. So you're going to have to move him inside. And I'm not convinced that he can shed blocks effectively there at his weight. Zach Moss, I think, was a very good pick. I think he could complement Devin Singletary well. Gabe Davis has release issues. He ran a very predictable route tree at UCF. And among the crop of receivers this year, which it was really a talented group, he just wasn't my favorite. I think the best pick they made was Jake Fromm. Josh Allen is insanely reckless when he's running the ball. He gets hurt a lot because of that. You need a solid backup quarterback when that happens. If they want to win this division, they're going to have a solid backup quarterback because Allen gets hurt and is going to miss some time. It might not be a game, it might be a quarter, but they need someone to come in and control the game when that happens. Fromm can do that. And Fromm doesn't have to be a starter there to be successful there. So that's why I love that Fromm pick, and it's really good value. The rest of the picks in this class were just very meh. I'm not an Isaiah Hodgins fan. Dane Jackson could be something, but it's a 7th-round pick. It's a punt. And then Tyler Bass is a kicker. From everything I've heard, he wasn't even the best kicker in this class. So I mean, this class was very meh for me. I gave it a B. There was good value for several of the picks, especially Epinesa and Moss. A lot of the players I didn't love, and I think none of these picks take this team and are like, this is the team in the AFC East. They were that team, but nothing here just makes them better and makes them the overwhelming favorite.
Yeah, I like what you brought up, Kramer, about the Jake Fromm pick, and especially talking about how reckless Josh Allen is. And we've all seen a tape of Josh Allen hurdling over dudes, trying to truck middle linebackers. Like, obviously, things quarterbacks should not do in the NFL. And a guy like Jake Fromm, everybody fell in love with too, because he was that freshman who carried Georgia to the national championship, who ended up losing to the guy who was taken number 5 overall in the draft this year as well. So Jake Fromm is a guy that everybody has loved for pretty much ever since he stepped foot on Georgia's campus. And a kind of situation like that, Kramer, I think you're absolutely right. Josh Allen is very reckless, and you need a guy who can handle big-time pressures and big-time games. And Jake Fromm has been in a ton of those big-time games and has played pretty well in a majority of them. So I agree with Kramer. I think that's a very good point. But I kind of want to pose this question. Is there any chance, any chance? I mean, if there's a 1% chance, I want you to tell me, is there any way that Jake Fromm, maybe a year or 2 years down the road, could take Josh Allen's spot?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I think Jake Fromm could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen's going to have every chance in the world in Buffalo, but I mean, I'm not convinced that he's the guy right now. I mean, maybe by this time next year, I will be convinced. I think he's very much in that Sam Darnold mold right now. We just don't know. He's been solid, but can he take that next step and be the franchise quarterback? And I mean, this is the year we're going to find out about these guys. So is it crazy that in a year or two, Josh Allen is looked at like I say, Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota? No. and Fromm could be the guy to come in and relieve them and get a shot. So I think it's possible. I don't think it's probable, but it's possible.
It's a no from me, dog, for a couple reasons.
You're saying 0% chance. 0% chance.
Zero, and it's not necessarily based. It's just based on timing. I think that I am a believer in Josh Allen. One, that's mainly the reason why. But two, don't forget, Jake Fromm's a 5th-round pick. His contract doesn't extend very long. I think by the time that he is slated to be a starting quarterback and get this shot, it'll be with a different team. That's like, God, we don't. Our 38-year-old quarterback is like kind of sucking right now. We need to get like a guy that we could fit in next year and be a stopgap quarterback as we move on and try to look for someone else. Oh, this guy who was good in college. He's on the Bills right now. The Bills spent a 5th. What if we give him a 4th-round pick so they like made something on the investment, and we'll get this guy in and start. I don't believe he's a starting quarterback, but I think we can get a shot because of his success in college. I don't think it'll be with the Bills because I don't think the time will line up. And I don't think Josh Allen, even if he fails, he'll fail quick enough, which I don't think he'll fail.
Interesting. Okay, so I think we hit on the Bills pretty good. Yeah. Now we're going to move on to the team that everybody was so curious what they were going to do in the first round. And ended up not even taking anybody in the first round. They traded out of the first round to go into the second. The New England Patriots. This is a new era without Tom Brady. You know, what are the Patriots going to do with that quarterback spot? People were wondering if it was going to be Jordan Love. They ended up trading out of it. And it looked like that trading out spot or the plan to trade out was going to be genius. Everybody thought Xavier McKinney was going to drop down there, and ends up he's taking a spot before them. So, Kramer, I'll start with you. New England Patriots, what's your overall assessment on how they did? And are you surprised they traded out and gave up the opportunity to take Jordan Love?
I'm not surprised at all. I like I like Stidham. I think they like Stidham. So I think they're giving him a chance. I thought they would give him a chance. And then once you realize you're not taking a quarterback, I mean, trading back made so much sense for Belichick because he always loves to do it. It seems like every analyst out there hates this draft. I think it's a solid draft. I really like Kyle Duggar, and I think he can be a chess piece for Belichick. Josh Uche has some pass rush potential. I'm not convinced it's second round worthy, but I would have taken him in the 3rd or 4th, and he gets the team back up with Winovich in New England. So I like that pass rush tandem there. I thought Devin Asiasi was the second best tight end in this class. And Dalton Keene has some talent there. I thought they overdrafted him, but they know tight ends better than anyone in the league. So I trust them. And I think Asiasi can be not necessarily Gronk, but he can have that type of production in this offense. I think the kicker in the 5th round was questionable given the needs of this team. And then Anthony Jennings from Alabama has a lot of potential, and I think he could be a really good pick. I think they could have taken O-line help earlier. Overall, it's a B- from me. I thought that it was a better draft than people thought, but it still left to be a lot to be desired, especially in those later rounds.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kramer. I think people were harping on this class way too much. I didn't understand it, and I totally agree. I like Stidham a lot. He was like my sleeper quarterback prospect last year. I think this guy. I think they like him too. I think they see the potential. I think they're going to try to ride out with him. Let's just go from the beginning. Kyle Duggar, I wrote in my article, could you think of a more Patriots player? Like a hard-hitting safety who can play linebacker, can play safety, is basically going to occupy a Cam Chancellor role in this defense. Love that pick. He was one of my man crushes in this class. I am as a top 30 player in this class. Josh Uche, another every pick they made was kind of a very multifaceted, versatile player. Josh Uche is a Tasmanian Dynamo. He plays linebacker. He plays edge rusher. Well, perfect for the Patriots. He's going to occupy that Kyle Van Noy slot that he is now left. Except he's going to be more of a bend, and Kyle Van Noy was more of a power guy. Then you got Anthony Jennings, who's another versatile linebacker. He's literally he's a poor man's Dante Hightower, who they have in New England. I think they're going to try to mold him into that kind of linebacker, and they can use him in multiple spots. Devin Asiasi, another guy I really loved in this class. He was number 3 tight end. He reminds me a lot of a Travis Kelce mold. He's just crazy athletic. He's so fluid. He could use a better handle on catching the ball, but I think when the ball's in his hands, there's very few tight ends that are more dangerous than he is when he has the ball in his hands. He's big, he's powerful. Dalton Keene, yeah, another tight end. They have none on the roster, so I think they might need to invest in that area. So I'm not mad. I'm never mad at a team for drafting a kicker. I got to be honest with you. If it's the 5th round, you pick your guy. Belichick's had some good luck with kickers in his career. Can't be too mad. Michael Onwenu in the 5th was a guy I loved. They need this. They've been missing size up front since Nate Solder left. They have lost their big guys, and that's what That's what Michael Onwenu is. He's pure just meat and potatoes. Gonna bull rush you. I'm bigger than you. Try to come back past me, defensive tackle. He might have some legit athleticism issues, but he's huge, and I think that he'll be a good fit in the Patriots offense. Christian Heron's a good swing tackle, can move anywhere. I don't know what the Cash Mola pick was, but sure, 6th round flyer. And then another interior offensive lineman. I like their draft. I gave it an A on my website, but thinking it over, it's an A-. I think they could have gone interior offensive line earlier. Michael Onwenu definitely saves it. I think they got a lot of players that fit the Patriot mold and what the Patriots do. And that's really what I took the draft to mean. And what was interesting to me is that not one receiver in this draft was taken for a team that's very publicly needed extra weapons. They got Devian Asiasi, but they're going to roll out there with Julian Edelman and whatever left of him, Jacoby Myers, who I like, and N'Keal Harry, who I love, but I think has injury issues. I think that they needed to get a real speed threat in this draft, and they didn't get it. So I think that this draft is an A- because of that.
Yeah, the interesting thing I saw with the Patriots that they actually took 3 players who were formerly on the Michigan roster. They took Josh Uche, Michael Onwenu, and they took Devin Asiasi, who people forget was the top 50 recruit at tight end who went to Michigan and ended up transferring back towards home to UCLA. And they're pretty cool. They already got Chase Winovich on the team, so they're chasing the Wolverines.
Yeah, well, they're also chasing Wolverines out of town.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. And especially
one got 3.
Exactly. The interesting thing with me for the Patriots is with them not taking Jordan Love and trading out of the 1st round. So how confident are you in their confidence level with Jarrett Stidham? Or do you think this is sort of a situation where last year we all heard the tank for Tua phrase? Are they tanking for Trevor?
Well, I think Miller would say they're tanking for Trey, but I think that they genuinely believe Stidham could be the guy. I also think that Belichick and Cassiero, I can never say his name.
Nick Caserio.
Caserio. I think they're smart guys. If Stidham doesn't work out, they're going to be bad. They're going to be really bad. And if they're really bad, then they're going to get their quarterback of the future next year. So you're giving a guy who you believe in a chance. And if it doesn't work out, then you're going to get your guy next year. So I think this works out really well for them. And I think it's really smart for them not taking a guy like Jordan Love, who, quite frankly, has some issues.
Yeah, I think that they've been burned by the athletic quarterback in the past. I think they were trying to move their offense to the next level. But I agree with Cramer. I think they really like Stidham a lot. I kind of really like Stidham. I think everyone was this is the problem with the media landscape is that all that exists is the quarterbacks. And if it's a 6th-round player, it can't be possible they're good. And it can't be unless they into the Patriots and they move past Tom Brady. They have to go for the heir apparent. They never did because they had Jimmy Garoppolo earlier. But what I don't think the Patriots ever believe in tanking. I don't think they'll ever try to lose a game. I don't think they'll ever, even if they're 4-8 at one point, they'll never stop losing the game. And next year, the quarterback class is stacked. There's 3 guys I could see going in the top 7. There's 5 guys I could see going in the top 32. And there's 6 guys I could see going in the top 40.
Where's the 3? Lawrence, Fields, and who's the other one?
Trey Lance. Trey Lance is someone you should study up on because I think he could be
right? Or North Dakota State guy?
North Dakota State, one of the craziest states I've ever watched. Seriously, educate yourself if you have a chance. I've never seen anything like this guy. I've been infatuated, and I did not expect to like him when I first saw him. You got him, and you got Kyle Trask, who's a guy I think could be something in the NFL. You got maybe, I believe in Doug McCaffrey or Joe Milton, to be honest. in the future. There's a lot of interesting quarterbacks that could be franchise guys coming into this draft class.
Miller, we had the same problem last week. You haven't named the 5 guys you're talking about. You've only named 4.
I named
Trask as the 4th. You think McCaffrey's 5th?
I think McCaffrey could be a real franchise, like first-round quarterback if he succeeds in his optimal.
I want a starting job first, but
I think Joe Milton could do the same. Like I believe in both of them, but Joe Milton obviously, I don't think is he eligible next year?
Joe Milton?
I think so. Right?
Yeah, he would be.
Yeah, he's been on Michigan's roster the entire time. So yeah, he's not transferred.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of quarterbacks who could develop into something. Not to mention the kid from Kellen Mond could develop into something. The kid from Texas A&M. There's Ian Book is coming into I don't believe in him, and Jamie Newman, who I don't necessarily believe in that much, but there's a lot of talk because he's going to Georgia that he'll succeed. I don't know if Georgia has the best track record with developing NFL quarterbacks, but let's talk for another day. There's a lot of quarterbacks I could see potentially being first-round quarterbacks, which is something I think the Patriots are very well aware of.
Kramer?
I mean, I think they're 3 guys for next year for the first round, and I think saying anyone else right now is kind of speculating. I mean, you have Fields, you have Lance, and you have Lawrence, and I think those are the 3 guys who are right now like they're kind of entrenched in that first round. And I mean, obviously, you can have a guy like Fromm, who people were talking about in the first round last year, he could fall, or you could have a guy like Burrow, who people are talking about not getting drafted in the 5th round, who can rise. But saying like I think it's crazy to say like McCaffrey could go in the first round. Like sure he could, but I mean, all I've seen him do is separate his shoulder. So I mean,
yeah, it's very much a projection based thing. It's like there's 4 guys I could see like somewhat become first rounders. If one of them moves up, I'm very confident. I feel like one of the 4 could become a real first rounder. If I had to put money, it'd be Kyle Trask. That's a conversation for another day. I just believe in all because especially I was calling out Fromm for a while, and I was a believer in Fromm. Like Fromm was my guy after his national championship game, and I was like, everything I've heard from like listening to podcasts, like this guy is the next Andrew Luck. I mean, Kramer and I listened to the same podcast, and that's what they were saying. And then I turned on the tape, and I was like, why is this guy never throwing more than 15 yards? It was really frustrating, and I was like, I don't know how to evaluate a guy like that. I don't have this problem with like a Fields or a Lawrence or Trey Lance or a Dylan McCaffrey or Kyle Trask. I've seen him do it a lot. But you're right. They could fall off the end of the earth, and players also could move up.
All right, so before we go, last question. After the draft, which team put themselves in best position to take over the AFC East if the Patriots are no longer crowned champions?
Miller's going to say the Bills, so I'll let him go first.
All right. Well,
I'm going to say the Bills just because I think their roster is the best. But I really don't – you should not sleep on the Patriots. I think the Patriots get a really solid draft class. And if Stidham is the guy they think of, I could easily see the Patriots winning the division this year.
Kramer?
The division is wide open. I don't think the Jets are there. I could see 3 teams winning this division. And I could see the Dolphins taking a giant step forward if Tua can stay healthy. If Tua can't, then obviously throw it off the door. And I think 3 of these teams could be picking first over younger quarterbacks like Stidham and Tua. So there's a lot of question marks here, but I think the Dolphins had a fantastic draft, and I'm really excited for Tua and especially for Austin Jackson too.
Well, gentlemen, it was a pleasure. I'm always so amazed of you guys' freaking knowledge. Half the names I have never heard of my entire life, so that's awesome. Glad you guys enjoyed it. But everyone, thank you for listening to our podcast, and stay safe. And hey, go Blue.
Go Blue.